Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into something maybe a bit unexpected. We're looking at everyday English, specifically those common phrases you use constantly, maybe without even, thinking twice. Phrases that just roll off the tongue. But what if I told you these simple expressions are actually, well, incredibly sophisticated tools, packed with subtle power, hidden complexities? They shape our conversations in ways we barely notice. They're like the invisible gears, right? Making natural communication work. And their nuances, mostly unexplored. So our mission today is to really peel back the layers on 4 of these linguistic gems. We want to go beyond just knowing what they mean. We want to get into the why and the how. Why do they work so well? How do they function in different situations? What do they reveal about the unspoken rules of English? Think of it like getting an X-ray of your vocabulary. Today, we're zooming in on the other day something was left, ran out of, and I haven't seen you in years. And this deep dive, well, think of it as a shortcut. A way to not just understand English, but to really feel it more deeply, to sound more natural, more authentic, and to tune into those subtleties that, native speakers just seem to pick up. Understanding these phrases properly, it unlocks new levels of fluency, of confidence. It helps avoid those moments where you get the words but maybe miss the underlying tone, the social cue. This is about gaining knowledge quickly, yeah, but thoroughly too. Lots of aha moments, hopefully illuminating how language really works behind the scenes. So when you think about these phrases, and you probably use them or hear them all the time, have you ever stopped to think about the incredible work they do? The heavy lifting in conversation, often totally under the radar.
That's a brilliant way to put it, the heavy lifting. Because what's immediately fascinating here is exactly that. Despite seeming so simple, these phrases carry, well, just an immense amount of contextual weight. And emotional weight, too.
Yeah.
They're definitely more than just words. They're essential social lubricants, and powerful ways to structure narratives, which, from a communication perspective, brings up a really key question. How do these phrases subtly but significantly shape how we understand things and how we express ourselves, often in ways we barely even consider? It's truly remarkable how much information gets condensed into these, tiny linguistic packages.
Linguistic microchips. I like that. Okay, let's get right into decoding them. First up, the other day. Sounds so simple, almost vague, doesn't it? Like it's just filling in for a date you can't quite recall. But what's it really doing for us in a conversation? What's the deeper function?
Well, the real genius of the other day lies in its elegant imprecision. That's what I'd call it.
Elegant imprecision. I like that.
Yeah. It's a fantastic linguistic shortcut. It lets us talk about an event, share a story, introduce something that happened without the conversational burden, of having to pinpoint an exact date. It prioritizes the narrative, the story, the point you're making.
Yeah.
It puts that ahead of strict chronology, which is just crucial for informal, natural chat.
Yeah.
You're not giving testimony, right? You're just sharing something interesting with a friend.
Right. And that elegant imprecision,
Yeah.
thinking about it, trying to nail down an exact date in casual conversation can feel a bit, well, almost aggressive maybe. A bit pedantic.
Exactly. Pedantic is a good word.
Like you're demanding chapter and verse instead of just listening to a quick story. If I asked you, so what exactly did you do on Tuesday, October 3rd last year versus, hey, what did you get up to the other day? The second one just feels so much more inviting, less like an interrogation.
Precisely. That subtle shift in phrasing completely changes the social dynamic. And that built-in ambiguity, that elegant imprecision, it points to a time frame that we generally understand as recent. We're usually talking, the last few days, maybe the last week or two, possibly stretching to a month at the outside, but very rarely months, certainly not years. The exact duration, it's wonderfully flexible. It really depends on the context, on the shared understanding between the people talking.
Yeah.
If it was actually a year ago, you'd probably say something else, like a while back or last year.
No, just last year, yeah.
And if it was literally yesterday, you'd just say yesterday. So the other day perfectly fills that gap, that sweet spot in the recent past. Not specific enough for a calendar date, but definitely not ancient history. It's like a social contract, isn't it?
Yeah.
Here's the story. The exact timing isn't the point, so let's just focus on the event.
Yeah, exactly. And it works so well as an opening line for stories, doesn't it? Or observations. It just sort of gently invites the listener in. No fuss, no formal introduction needed. Think about the difference. Someone starts a story, that classic way. The other day I was walking through the park and I saw the most incredible street performer. You're hooked, right? You're curious, ready for the story. Now compare that mentally to, on Tuesday, September 2nd, I was walking through the park and I saw the most incredible street performer. It just lands differently.
The difference in tone, and really crucially the conversational entry point, is huge. The second one, with the specific date, it sounds like you're, I don't know, reporting an incident, like for an official record maybe, or a diary entry you're reading aloud. It creates this little bit of distance. But the first one, using the other day, it feels friendly, almost intimate, like an invitation to share an experience. It signals, this isn't about the date, it's about the moment, the story itself. It builds rapport through sharing, not just data dumping.
It's so versatile, too. You can use it even when you're talking about something a bit more structured or just reflecting. Like, I was actually thinking about this deep dive the other day and how I really hope listeners pick up on these nuances. Even there, it just smoothly signals a prior thought, a recent contemplation, without needing to say, at 3:55 p.m. last Wednesday, I thought about the podcast. It shows continuity of thought, a recent connection to the topic.
That versatility is definitely key to its power. But it's also really important we talk about its limits, where not to use it. While the other day is fantastic for informal, everyday chat, it's generally not appropriate where precision is, well, essential, absolutely paramount.
Right, formal situations.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't use it in, say, a business report detailing project milestones, or in a legal statement, or a medical history, or even just trying to schedule something concrete for the future. Imagine telling your doctor, I was feeling ill the other day. That's just not helpful, is it? They need specifics. Or telling your boss, we had a meeting the other day, when they need to know exactly when a critical decision was made. The context demands more precision.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
And stepping back again, with this choice, between the other day and a specific date, what it really tells us about language generally is how incredibly adaptive it is, how it shifts gears for different social registers, those levels of formality. It teaches us that effective communication isn't always about dumping the maximum amount of detail. It's about providing the appropriate level of detail for the context, which, when you think about it, raises a fascinating question. How does our brain subconsciously figure out the right level of time detail for every single interaction? It's pretty amazing, really. It shows how sophisticated our linguistic intuition is.
So the takeaway here is, by understanding the subtle, almost invisible work the other day is doing, you gain this fantastic tool. You can tell stories more naturally, sound more relaxed, more engaging. You develop that intuition for when precision matters. And when embracing that elegant imprecision, that comfortable vagueness actually makes the conversation flow better. It's about connecting effectively, not just being technically accurate. All right, let's peel back another layer. This next one. This is where things get really interesting, especially if you're trying to truly master the nuances of English. Something was left. Now, at first glance, seems simple enough, right? An object forgotten or just, remaining somewhere. But dive deeper and you find this fascinating, almost diplomatic dance going on around responsibility, around focus. It looks simple, but it's often loaded with subtle meaning.
It's a fantastic phrase to examine because it immediately raises a really crucial question. Why do we, as English speakers, default so often to the passive voice here, where the action happens to the thing rather than someone doing the action?
Right, like the window is left open instead of someone left the window open.
Exactly. And that grammatical choice, it dramatically shifts the emphasis. It takes the focus off the person who did the leaving and puts it squarely onto the item itself and its current state, its status. It's a subtle but incredibly powerful technique for discussing consequences or just states of affairs without directly assigning blame, without pointing fingers, which can be incredibly useful in, navigating tricky social situations. If I just say a window was left open, the focus is on the open window, the potential draft, the security risk maybe, not necessarily on who forgot to close it.
That de-emphasis of the agent, the person who did it, that's absolutely key. It's like a masterclass in linguistic diplomacy, isn't it?
It really is.
Using the passive voice was left instead of someone left. It lets the speaker deliberately sidestep naming the person responsible. Maybe because they genuinely don't know who it was, or maybe it's just irrelevant to the point they're making. But often, let's be honest, it's used to soften things, right? To mitigate blame, to make an observation less accusatory, or maybe even when the speaker is the one who left the thing, it becomes this really useful diplomatic tool in everyday life.
Exactly right. Think about a common situation. A wallet was left on the train. The immediate focus there is purely on the wallet. Its presence where it shouldn't be, the need to retrieve it. It doesn't automatically spotlight the forgetful owner. Even if you know who the owner is, maybe it's your friend standing right there, or even if it's your wallet you're talking about. This phrasing allows for a more objective statement, less loaded. It just states the fact. Wallet, here, needs attention. No hint of, tut-tut, you were careless.
And the difference in impact, it's huge. Compare these two. If I say to you, you left your keys on the counter, that's direct, pointed. Could easily sound like I'm blaming you, make you feel defensive. Now, compare that to, your keys were left on the counter. It's so much softer, isn't it? Much less confrontational. It gets the vital information across, hey, keys, counter, but it cleverly focuses on the fact of their location, not on your action of leaving them there. It's a gentle nudge, not an accusation.
That's a perfect illustration of that diplomatic power. But it's not just about avoiding blame. This phrase is also used very broadly just to focus on the remnant itself, to talk about what remains after an event, often implying there's a surplus or some kind of unintended residue. For instance, after a big meal or party, someone might say, wow, after the party, a lot of food was left.
Yeah, happens all the time.
Right, and it conveys the abundance, the fact there's still food available, maybe for people to take home or for lunch tomorrow. It's not about criticizing who didn't eat enough. It's a practical observation, often with a positive spin. Look, bonus food.
Right. Or another common one. Only a few pages were left in the notebook. That immediately focuses your attention on the limited quantity remaining. It signals, hey, probably need a new notebook soon, without needing to say who used up all the paper. It highlights the state of the object, its quantity, not the history of its use.
Now, it's also really worth clarifying two related phrases here. They sound similar, they both use left, but they have distinct meanings and are often confused. Left behind and left over.
Good point, yeah.
Left behind almost always implies something was forgotten, usually unintentionally, by someone in a place it shouldn't be. For example, my backpack was left behind at the airport. That immediately paints a picture of oversight, maybe rushing, forgetting something important, accidentally leaving it.
Okay, so left behind implies forgotten. What about left over?
Left over, on the other hand, specifically refers to a surplus quantity. Usually food, sometimes materials, remaining after something is finished, after consumption or after a task. So if you say there were a lot of leftovers from dinner, it clearly means extra food that wasn't eaten. It's not about forgetting the food on the table, it's about having cooked or served more than was needed. It implies a surplus, a resource for later, like your lunch tomorrow.
That distinction is really important for clear communication, isn't it? Using the right one avoids confusion. Left behind, forgotten item. Left over, surplus quantity. Got it.
Exactly. And stepping back again, what this whole area shows us is just how incredibly precise our language can be. How it conveys these nuanced social dynamics, these practical details. The subtle choice, often subconscious, between just left or left behind or left over, it communicates very different stories about cause, effect, intention, without ever needing to spell those things out explicitly. This careful word choice helps us navigate social interactions with more diplomacy, more clarity, more effectiveness.
So, by really accepting something was left, you gain this much deeper appreciation for the passive voice. You see it not just as a grammatical structure, but as a powerful tool for diplomacy, for focusing on outcomes, not agents, and for making those fine distinctions between different kinds of remnants. This knowledge definitely empowers you to communicate with, well, greater precision and a sharper awareness of all that implied meaning simmering beneath the surface. Really useful. Okay, let's move on to our next linguistic chameleon. Ran out of, this is a big one. Most of us, I guess, we first think of the really literal uses, right? Running out of milk for your cereal, or, God forbid, running out of gas miles from anywhere.
Oh yeah, the worst.
Exactly. But this phrase, ran out of, it's so much more than just an empty carton or a sputtering engine, isn't it? It's this powerful statement of complete depletion that stretches across so many different contexts.
What's truly captivating about ran out of is, yes, its incredible versatility, but also the potent sense of finality it carries. It doesn't just mean you're low on something or almost gone. It means zero, deplete, exhausted, completely consumed. And its brilliance is how it applies just as well to concrete, physical stuff like ingredients, money, batteries, as it does to abstract, intangible concepts. Things like time, patience, luck, ideas. This makes it absolutely fundamental for talking about limits, scarcity, consequences in pretty much every part of life. It really makes you ponder, doesn't it? How does this simple three-word phrase manage to capture such a basic part of the human condition? You know, the constant juggling act of managing finite resources, whether they're material things or our own emotional reserves. It's core to how we narrate our daily plans and problems.
That sense of absolute finality, yeah, that's incredibly powerful. Let's start with the most straightforward uses, the physical, tangible resources being completely used up. Like that classic morning scenario, oh, we ran out of coffee this morning, so I had to make do with tea. Immediately paints a clear picture. Empty container, Needed improvisation.
Or, that more serious one, the consequence-laden one most drivers dread. The
Mm.
car ran out of gas miles from the nearest service station. That instantly signals trouble, either poor planning or maybe an unexpected leak or just bad luck. But the result is immediate, tangible, and usually pretty stressful. Requires action, a call for help, a long walk.
Yeah, and it's not just personal situations, it works commercially too. It's a quick way to summarize a supply issue or really high demand. The store ran out of that popular item almost immediately. That tells you high demand, complete stock depletion, maybe signals to consumers act faster next time, or tells the store order way more. Efficient market shorthand.
Okay, but now let's explore how powerfully this phrase extends beyond the physical, into those non-physical, often emotional or time-based resources. This is where its idiomatic strength really shines. Think about expressing frustration. I've run out of patience with these constant delays. That's not about a physical thing being empty at all, but it very clearly, very powerfully communicates an emotional limit has been hit, utterly reached. It signals deep frustration, exasperation, maybe a breaking point is near. The speaker has zero capacity left for tolerance.
Absolutely. Or think about deadlines. We ran out of time to finish the project before the deadline. Again, not just a neutral statement about the clock. It highlights a time limit that's been completely exhausted.
Yeah.
And the direct result, failure to complete the task. It communicates that failure concisely, impactfully, often with a sense of regret.
And it can even touch on purely mental or creative resources, showing its amazing abstract reach. Consider this. He ran out of ideas for his presentation after the first 10 minutes. What does that mean? It indicates a mental block, right? A complete depletion of inspiration, of creative fuel. A very abstract concept, but we all understand it. The well has run dry, temporarily at least, and it impacts performance.
What's also really key here, I think, and maybe easy to overlook, is that ran out of is rarely just a statement of fact. It almost always implies something needs to happen next. A consequence, a necessary action, a change. It usually signals a turning point, doesn't it? If you run out of coffee, well, you need to buy more coffee or drink tea. If your car runs out of gas, you have to get help or walk. If you run out of patience, maybe you change your strategy, maybe you complain, maybe you just walk away. It always leads somewhere else, a new phase.
Absolutely spot on. And when we look at this in the bigger picture, ran out of isn't just a declaration of it's gone, it's often the trigger, the catalyst for immediate action, or the justification for changing plans, or the explanation for why something ended or failed. It tells us something really fundamental about how humans plan, how we manage resources, how we bump up against the inevitable limits of the world, physical limits, time limits, emotional limits. It's like a linguistic mirror reflecting our constant dance with scarcity and the need to adapt.
So really getting ran out of means you can articulate scarcity much more effectively. You can express that complete depletion of resources, whether it's milk or time or your own energy, and you can communicate that urgent need for change, for new action. It makes your statements about limits incredibly clear, incredibly impactful. It conveys not just what happened, but crucially, what now needs to happen. All right, let's unpack our final phrase for this deep dive. And this one, oh, it's practically bursting with warmth, isn't it? Full of emotional resonance. Haven't seen you in years. Now, this isn't just a cold factual note about the calendar passing. No way. This phrase, when you use it right, it feels almost like a verbal hug. It's infused with so much more than just literal time. What is it about that exaggeration that makes it feel so genuinely warm, so impactful?
It's a fantastic phrase to end on because what's truly captivating, as you say, is that strong element of hyperbole. Exaggeration for emphasis, for effect, not for literal truth. The speaker might not have literally gone years without seeing the person. Maybe it's been 6 months, maybe just a particularly long few weeks that felt like years. But the phrase powerfully conveys that genuine sense of surprise, that profound warmth, and the feeling, the strong impression that a significant chunk of time has passed since they last met. It dramatically boosts the emotional impact of the reunion. And it immediately works to reestablish that bond, which really makes us think, how do we use exaggeration so effectively? Not to mislead people, but actually to deepen the emotional truth. To signal sincerity, it's a deeply ingrained social convention, and it's incredibly effective.
That's spot on. The years part is almost never a literal count. It's a stand-in, a universally understood code for a really, really long time. The exaggeration isn't deceptive. It amplifies the speaker's delight, their surprise, their genuine pleasure at seeing the other person. Think of that joyful, maybe slightly breathless exclamation when you bump into an old friend unexpectedly. Oh my gosh, it's really you. I haven't seen you in years. How are you? That emphasis immediately communicates real excitement, a deep sense of reconnection, a sincere wish to catch up much more effectively differently than saying, it has been precisely 8 months and 12 days since our last encounter. That would just be weird.
Huh? Yes, completely weird. It would kill the moment. And it can even stretch beyond people have more metaphorical use. You might hear someone say, talking about a topic, wow, it feels like years since we last really talked about the historical context of these phrases. Here, years isn't literal time, but it signals a subjectively felt long interval. A long time since that specific discussion happened, even if it was maybe only a few months ago on the calendar. Yeah. It's about the impression of time passing, not the stopwatch. It underscores maybe the importance of the topic or the pleasure of returning to it.
And what's so lovely and so effective about it is how it instantly signals there was a relationship before, a shared history. It works as this incredible icebreaker, a connection builder, even if that connection has been dormant for a while. It creates this instant sense of familiarity, of warmth, of mutual recognition. By using it, you're basically saying, hey, I remember you, our connection mattered, and I acknowledge it's been too long. It's like throwing a verbal bridge across the time gap, reestablishing rapport instantly.
Absolutely. And this phrase really comes into its own. It shines in those common, often unexpected situations of reunion. Bumping into someone on the street you haven't seen in ages, going to a school reunion or a college one, catching up with old work colleagues at a conference, or even just in a casual chat with someone you see semi-regularly but maybe you haven't properly talked to in a slightly longer than usual time. It's the perfect heartfelt way to acknowledge both the time that's passed and the enduring nature of the connection. It bridges that gap straight away.
And it's interesting, we have variations too, don't we? Alternatives that carry pretty much the same feeling, that same sense of a long absence, like, I haven't seen you in ages, or it's been forever. Or the really common informal one, long time no see.
Mm-hmm.
They all convey that emotional weight, that feeling of a significant gap, just with maybe subtle differences in formality, intensity. It's been forever. Sounds a bit more dramatic, maybe. Almost lamenting the time lost. While long time no see is quick, casual, breezy, good for a quick hello, different flavors of the same warm feeling.
That's an excellent point about the different registers, the different flavors. And when we connect this phrase back to the bigger picture, the broader function of language, it really stands out as a prime example of language's profound social function. It's way less about precise, factual reporting of time and much, much more about forging human connection, affirming bonds, expressing genuine emotion, acknowledging shared history. It's a beautifully human way to greet someone. It prioritizes that relational warmth, the emotional truth of the reunion, way above strict chronological accuracy. It speaks volumes about our need for connection.
So mastering haven't seen you in years and its cousins, it lets you express that heartfelt emotion, reconnect with people authentically, powerfully. It teaches you how to use hyperbole, not as some kind of lie, but as a really strong tool for building rapport, conveying genuine feelings, celebrating that shared past and social interactions. Using it well makes you sound incredibly natural, relatable, and, emotionally intelligent in your English conversations. It's about speaking from the heart, not just the head. Wow. Okay, what an illuminating journey that was today. We've taken these four, seemingly simple, almost invisible phrases. The other day, something was left, ran out of, and I haven't seen you in years, and really uncovered some surprising depth, didn't we? The nuanced utility, the incredible social power hidden inside each one. It's so clear now these aren't just throwaway words. They are sophisticated, dynamic tools of communication, doing really complex work just beneath the surface.
Indeed. We saw how the other day gives us that elegant imprecision, acting as a kind of social lubricant for smooth storytelling. We explored how something was left, cleverly navigates blame, focuses on outcomes, showing the diplomatic power of the passive voice. We delved into ran out of, how it vividly expresses those crucial dynamics of depletion, of limits, applying to things both tangible and abstract. And finally, we celebrated how I haven't seen you in years, skillfully uses exaggeration to forge these powerful, authentic emotional connections.
And that really is the central theme here, isn't it? The big takeaway, that profound realization that even the most common phrases, the ones we barely notice ourselves using, are absolutely packed with nuance, with context, with implied meaning. They serve these vital, often unspoken roles in our conversations, subtly shaping how we tell stories, how we assign responsibility or avoid it, how we express limits, and, crucially, how we build and maintain those human connections. They are, like we said at the start, those invisible gears turning the complex machinery of natural dialogue. So the next time you hear someone use one of these phrases, or the next time you use one, you'll hear it differently, won't you? You'll use it differently, maybe. It won't just be, familiar words strung together. It'll be a window into the unspoken rules of natural conversation, a glimpse into culture, communication, connection. You might even catch yourself analyzing the subtle implications, appreciating the power you're wielding.
And that, for me, is the really exciting part. It genuinely makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other seemingly innocuous everyday expressions are out there? The ones we use constantly, without fully appreciating their underlying power, their purpose. Perhaps they're just, well, waiting for their own deep dive. Inviting all of us, really, to become language detectives in our own lives, to keep uncovering the rich, intricate tapestry of the language we share every day.
And that, my friends, sounds like a fantastic deep dive for another day entirely. We really hope this exploration empowers you, the listener, to listen more closely, maybe speak a bit more intentionally, armed with these invaluable new insights. Keep exploring.